Hi everyone, welcome to episode 7 of Straight Talking Science. My name is Barry Skillington. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer with Atlantia Clinical Trials here in Cork and in Chicago. And we do human clinical research on lots of different topics within the functional food and medical device space. So today I am honoured to be joined by Dr. Harriët Schellekens, who is a senior lecturer with the Department of Anatomy and Neuroscience in UCC. She's a funded investigator for Food Health Ireland. She's a funded investigator for the APC Microbiome Ireland, and she's a leading expert in human hormone ghrelin, which we will talk about in a second. So, Harriët, welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
That's only half the introduction. I left half out because we need to get onto the topic. So, you have a long CV, so you are an expert in this area. We wanted to do this episode just because there's a lot of talk about, people are hungry all the time. There's obesity disease. There's the hormones we hear about, the GLPs, which we'll get into, and all the drugs. And so weight and weight management and appetite are such a topical area now. I thought this might be a really nice way to, explain some of it and dispel some of the
Misconceptions.
Good, thank you so much. So we'll start off.
Yeah.
I think probably the place to start is maybe you could explain the GLP-1 drugs that people hear about and what they do, and then we'll move in.
Yeah, and maybe I'll explain a little bit what I do at UCC Cork as well, which makes it perhaps relevant. So I obviously teach at UCC. I teach neuroanatomy, which includes the communication between the gut and the brain as well. And in my research, I investigate why are we hungry? What are the hormones that make us feel hungry? What are the hormones that make us feel full? And how do they talk to each other? And how do they talk to the brain? And I'm really interested in conditions that happen when that communication goes wrong, which is obesity.
Right.
And I'm really interested in the link between obesity and stress-related disorders and stress eating, for instance. So I investigate the hormones, and I also look at how something that we talk about a lot nowadays, how the gut microbiome influences the secretion of these hormones and what kind of role the gut microbiome plays in making us feel hungry and regulating appetite. Now, of course, we hear a lot about those GLP-1 drugs that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're great. They are a fantastic advancement for individuals with the disease of obesity. Because, and perhaps this is a really important fact, before individuals would think obesity is a lifestyle problem, which it really isn't. It is an actual disease. Just as high blood pressure is a disease, the disease of obesity is a disease that we can medicate with these GLP-1 drugs. And they're very effective. And this is really, really good. But it's not a magic bullet, and it's not to be used by everyone. Currently, these GLP-1 medications, which are a natural form of the glucagon-like peptide that our body produces ourselves.
Yeah.
But they are more stable and a little bit louder. So it's like a traffic light screaming louder. You're full, don't eat anymore. And it makes your digestion go a little bit slower. So in a way, it's an appetite suppressant. It reduces food noise, and people will lose a lot of weight with it. So it's prescribed for individuals, and originally who had diabetes, because it regulates glucose. The side effect was that the individuals would lose weight. So now it's prescribed for individuals with the disease of obesity. And it can be prescribed for individuals who are overweight, but with another comorbidity. Okay. It shouldn't be used, because it is a drug. People who are overweight or just want to lose a few kilos should reconsider straight away going for medication. Nutrition is important.
And that's kind of our intro into where we are. Like, so as a normal person not on medication, let's kind of take the story up from there then. Yeah. So in terms of appetite, so the lay people, all of us, right? Appetite is hormone-driven, not hormone-driven, lifestyle-driven, all of the above?
Well, let's start. So if appetite is not only about willpower, it's biology. Our gut needs to signal, do I need nutrition or do I have sufficient nutrition?
Right.
And hormones are the ones that regulate that. So we have lots of hormones that are secreted by specialized cells in our gut called enteroendocrine cells, including GLP-1 is secreted from so-called L cells. They are secreting GLP-1, and then GLP-1 increases insulin secretion from the pancreas, which modulates glucose regulation. But we have other hormones as well, including CCK, PYY. They tend to all be satiety signals. They get secreted when food arrives in our gastrointestinal tract, and that can signal locally or activate the metabolic processes, but it all signals to the brain as well. Okay, we have nutrition, we're good. But there's one hormone in particular that our body makes. This is called ghrelin, and that's the only hormone that we make ourselves that actually is not a satiety hormone, but is a hormone that we call the hunger hormone, because it will increase and signal food intake. It's produced by the stomach, and it's a 28 peptide, and it increases before each meal. So it is secreted in the stomach, goes to the blood, and then before each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we have higher levels of this ghrelin in our blood, which initiate food intake.
Right.
In addition to that, ghrelin also, this is the homeostatic regulation of appetite, what they call. But we also have, of course, something that is the hedonic food intake, or eating for pleasure. Because we all know, and this is when you go out to dinner, especially, you tend to overeat a little bit, but even when you're full, you still want your chocolate cake or whatever your vice is. And when we're eating, ghrelin, the food arrives in the gut, and then ghrelin goes down again, and that should terminate food intake.
Any food. So it's not food specific. So ghrelin, so you have more ghrelin, you're hungry, so head's in the cupboard. Doesn't matter what you put in, does it?
Well, it does. And I think this is the biggest issue nowadays. Our food isn't always of good quality, right?
Yeah.
And we hear a lot about your diet can help you not only, achieve the preferred waistline, but it will also help you feel good, because that's what I study, food and mood.
Right.
And ghrelin plays a big role in that, because it's kind of at the interface between how our body signals, yes, eat food, but then subsequently also how it signals in the brain, releases dopamine that makes us feel good.
Yeah.
And in individuals with obesity, that signaling that I spoke about, which is increasing ghrelin in the blood before breakfast, before lunch, and before dinner.
Yeah.
In individuals with obesity, that signaling tends to be dysregulated. There aren't really big peaks of ghrelin, but what is also really absent is during the night when we sleep.
Yeah.
We have an increase in ghrelin because we're not eating. But that increase in ghrelin in people who have the disease of obesity isn't there. And so there is a dysregulation of how ghrelin will drive our food intake, but at the same time, there's a dysregulation of how ghrelin will tell our brain, yeah, we're satisfied, also from the hedonic point of view, and there's a dysregulation in dopamine subsequently.
Yeah. So like, for the normal person, right, they're hungry, let's say, I'll take me, wake up in the morning, starving, right? And some people say they wake up and they're not hungry in the morning. And so I know there's other hormones, and we don't want to get into all the hormones, but there's ghrelin that says, okay, you're hungry. And then there's cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which I guess goes up to wake you up, to get you up and moving, right? And they're all interlinked. But I go down and a breakfast, and I'm trying to be, generic for everybody. And we reach for something. And if it's sugar-based, they all work the same. I mean, they all serve the same function. So they decrease the hunger. But sugar-based foods, they don't last as long as protein-based. And so we then get into, which we've got into in many different episodes, in terms of the types of food, like slow-release, protein, fiber. And so is there a preferred food to keep these hormones on a homeostasis, to keep them as well checked as we possibly can?
Well, this is a really big question.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Don't really know
So if you could just come up with the perfect diet, that'd be great. Thanks.
So I'll try my best here. Yeah, you're right. Sugar is a quick release and it digests really quickly.
Yeah.
So we know that if we eat higher fiber or higher protein foods, it's slow release, it's better for us, gives us more energy throughout the day. And that is tied in with a better hormone profile, because these hormones, as I said, including ghrelin and the other hormones, are all going up and down all the time. That has to be in a fine balance. But what happens now when obviously people tend to like high fat and high sugar foods, right? I do too. I love that because it gives you the dopamine. But what doesn't happen with these high fat, high sugar foods is that the gut is no longer able to signal to the brain that it got the correct nutritions. And the same happens with natural sugars versus sugar substitutes, but also with high fat diet. We taste it and we think, hey, a lot of nutrition is coming, bing, 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 reward is signaling, we have the dopamine response. But then in the gut, actually, there's a mismatch, there's an error. So there's a predictive error as such. Our mouth tastes all the high fat and the high sugar, but then in the gut, if this high fat, high sugar convenience kind of junk food doesn't have the nutrition and it passes through the gut really quickly, the gut cannot subsequently signal to the brain, and it's like a false promise. The actual nutrition doesn't arrive. So the sugar itself isn't the bad guy. Fat itself isn't the bad guy. We're obviously wired for calories in times of scarcity. Everyone kind of knows that. We need to, or from an evolutionary point of view, we're wired for those calories. If something is high fat, high sugar, we have learned that it gives us a real good calorie boost. And in times of scarcity, we want those calories. But the foods nowadays are so unnatural in their, like ultra-processed foods, unnatural in their combinations of high fat and high sugar, that the signal in the mouth and the quick signal, the fast signal, the pre-digestive cephalic response is amplified, like an alarm bell. Something good is coming, but then it doesn't arrive. And this is what is driving overeating. So you continuously want more of these high fat, high sugar foods, because evolutionary speaking, we've learned high fat, high sugar is going to give us calories, but the calories haven't arrived, so I'm going to have to eat more of it. High fat is good, high sugar is good, but not the unnatural combinations. It needs to be matched up with the actual delivery of the calories, because then the hormones say, okay, the calories have arrived, we're full, and stop eating. But because it goes so quickly through the gut, those signals don't arrive, and that's what drives overeating.
And so are we talking about, because we will talk about the sugar-free, like, these type of sweeteners that, they're promise calories, but no calories. So like crunchy nut cornflakes full of sweetener versus eggs. Is that what we're talking about here? Slow release, high protein, some fat, maybe toast butter, whatever.
Well, maybe take it back to the sugar, because originally sugar substitutes were designed to help people with the disease of obesity to eat and drink less calories so they wouldn't gain weight. But what happened, we have different types of sugar substitutes. The initial sugar substitutes were so-called nutrient-free. So they had no nutrients, non-nutritive sugar substitutes. And there we have that exact mismatch. So the mouth goes bing, 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 I have sugar, there's dopamine, but there is no arrival of the post-ingestive signaling that tells the brain, yes, we have it. So over time, those dopamine signals get, and same with high fat, high sugar, unnatural combinations, they get downregulated. So we need more of it. So if you constantly have sugar-free drinks, you are at risk of actually downregulating your dopamine signaling in the reward pathway, and you crave more of it. So it would drive overeating. Now, luckily, there are also nutritive sweeteners, so more natural sweeteners that can be sugar substitutes. One particular one is that comes to mind is tegatose. It's the natural sugar substitute. It actually isn't absorbed in the gut, but it goes all the way down, and the microbes, we haven't talked about the gut microbiota
we
yet.
Get there.
Actually,
well, we'll get it. It's page two.
The gut microbiota digests it, and they create short-chain fatty acids from it. So the signals of that sugar substitute do arrive. So there is more of a match between what happens pre-digestive in the mouth and what happens post-digestive in the gut.
With less calories.
with less
Lower
calories.
calories. And these are the new type of sweeteners coming, like...
Yes.
Yeah. I can't name the brands. We've
No, we
done
can.
some research on them, but yeah, okay. So the sugar-free thing, and that has a big part to play in microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
So what we eat drives, the bacteria that grow in us, right? We've taught in these episodes many different around whole food diets and, your microbiome, the diversity. So let's talk about the diversity of microbiome and maybe through life stages and how it changes and what that does to us in terms of appetite, depression, hormone, that whole cycle of...
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll start with just perhaps one of the studies that was done a long time ago, which really showed how important our gut microbiota is in weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was a study by the work done a long time ago in human twins. This was Jeffrey Gordon's group, and they used human twins, so they have the same genetic makeup because genes play a role in whether one person gains more weight versus the other person as well.
Okay.
But they took the microbiome from these twins, and one of the twins was lean, and the other one had, or groups of twins had the disease of obesity or were carrying overweight. And they just took the microbes and did a fecal microbiota transplant, so gave these microbes to rodents, and they observed that the rodents who received the microbiota from the individuals with obesity, that they were gaining adipose tissue. So they were increasing and they were getting fatter and fatter.
Right.
The ones that received the microbe from the lean twin just stayed normal. So this is really, really key because it shows that without any changes in diet, those microbes that came from the individual who had obesity were transferring the phenotype of obesity and transferring the disease to the rodents independently of diet. And they later also showed that there are certain microbial species that are better able to harvest energy from our diet. And again, this links back to evolution. Of course, microbes were there long before us. We have evolved with microbes in and on us. And we have evolved to have favorable microbes that are better able to harvest energy in scarcity.
Right.
So this is unbelievable. So yes, your microbes will play a really big role in whether you hold on to weight or whether you are absorbing more calories from food than others.
Okay.
And you were mentioning diversity.
Yeah.
So when we're born, we get the microbes from our mother. Early in life, the microbiota is not very diverse. It's actually more specialized. We have more microbial species to be able to metabolize milk, either formula or breast milk. And then as we age and we wean, we start eating our own food. Microbiota diversity increases to that of an adult. And the diversity is really, really good because if we have many different species, it means that they can do many different things. Microbes play a really big role in priming our immune system. They make certain vitamins that we can't make ourselves. They harvest energy from our diet.
Yeah.
And then as we age, because you were asking about later in life, that diversity declines again. And I have the feeling that our microbes play a really big role in buffering our environmental challenges and can include buffering the challenge of a high-fat, high-sugar diet or the challenge of lack of sleep.
Temporarily.
Temporarily.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it.
Point at me because I said I didn't sleep last night. So, and now I'm making poor food choices.
So you have
today.
high ghrelin.
I have high ghrelin, right?
So you're hungry. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So, okay, so if the microbiota is able to buffer temporary changes, so you travel, you have a different diet for a while, or, you have a bit of lack of sleep, you're under stress. But on the overall, it's like the message has been very consistent in all of the things we've talked about in terms of these episodes. Diversity of microbiota is diversity of diet. So a good whole food diet is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the biggest ways in which we can modulate our microbiome is diet.
Right.
It's been clearly shown that if you have a bad diet, your microbiome will change. If you have a good diet with diverse foods, as you're talking about, your microbiota will be diverse. So your buffer to manage those challenges is better. What is really interesting as well, and I'm taking back to the complexity of eating, because it's not just, okay, I'm hungry, I need to eat, and now I'm full.
Yeah.
It is that pleasurable food as well. And the last 2 years, it has shown that not only does diet change our microbiota, but the microbes that are in our gut, yes, they can harvest energy from our food, but they can also signal back to the brain to modulate food motivation.
Right.
So they can tap into how hard, how much do I want to eat this food? So they can drive food choices, they can drive food preferences, and certain bacterial species send clear signals preferring high fat and high sugar foods because that's what they thrive.
Okay.
So that's amazing. So that really goes to show you're not only fighting, your hormones, but you also need to really eat to feed the right food to your microbes so they're better able to interact with the cells that secrete these hormones. Because if they're not getting the right food, you won't have the right species, and that taps in straight away into the secretion of these hormones. There are microbes, they have shown, for instance, in animals that don't have a microbiota at all, they call them germ-free,
Right.
that they have different levels of ghrelin, different levels of GLP-1, they have a higher stress sensitivity. So it all really shows, again, how the microbiota interacts with the host, interacts with the gut to regulate appetite hormones, and how it also interacts with our stress regulation, our food and mood.
Okay, so it is a delicate balance, but it's a complex story. It's not a simple story. And then
Not.
do we layer in emotional eating? Or is that the microbiota driving the food choice? Or is emotional eating, I assume it's from whatever else is going on in your life?
So stress-related eating and emotional eating, this is one of the reasons why for some people, one of the reasons, not the only reasons, why some people who take GLP-1, it may not really work as well, because when you are taking GLP-1 drugs, it is not GLP-1 fixes it. You also need to change your eating behavior and eat. It's not about eating less, it's about eating better. And if you have high cortisol, you have higher levels of ghrelin, and you tend to have a harder time making the right choices for the right food.
Right.
And that could be down to because of that interaction with the different species of microbes that you have.
Yeah.
We have shown in my lab that specific microbial species are able to, we did this in rodents as well as in humans, are able to reduce the stress hormone cortisol in individuals who have obesity, and also improve glucose and normalize ghrelin levels. So there's definitely evidence, and this evidence is accumulating from my lab and others within ABC Microbiome Ireland and elsewhere, that the microbiota is a target that we can modulate to help us make better choices.
Right.
And that goes all the way from early life to us at our life stage, as well as in...
I'm ahead of you, but
as well as in
age.
The elderly.
Yeah. Okay, so so food choice. So we're born with a footprint, and what I'm hearing, and I'm joking, but obesity is catching. It's not catching. It's about the choice you make. So it's it's very cyclical then.
Yeah.
If you make good choices and you eat good food, you likely change your microbiota for the better, which will have a positive impact on your eating behavior, which will have a positive impact on your weight, and so the cycle goes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and diet is not the way.
Yes, that's a good point, because we did talk about that earlier. So we do need to address dieting. So you go and tell them to not diet.
So
tell them why.
Don't diet.
Don't
do a crash diet. Don't eat less, but eat better. Because what happens when, what GLP does really well, it reduces the food noise.
Yeah.
And what a crash diet does, it restricts you so much, so you're in calorie deficit, and it ups the ghrelin hormone.
Right.
It ups cortisol, so you have a harder time making right decisions and stress eating more. And it also really makes you in such a calorie deficit that your body tries to fight it. And as soon as you slip, you tend to make more choices for unhealthy eating. So you reach for those rewarding foods because you've been depriving yourself for so long.
Right.
Diet is kind of a little bit of a disordered eating, you could nearly say, because you're doing something that's so unhealthy, a calorie deficit, and your body responds by increasing ghrelin, by increasing cortisol, and you make the wrong choices. So this is why, and people have heard it before, you need to have lifestyle changes and eat better and eat healthy. But it's very confusing nowadays. What is healthy? Because
Yeah.
labels say no added sugar, but
Yeah.
they may have those unhealthy sweeteners in there, and convenience. I have 3 children myself, so and I work, so dinner needs to be quick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really difficult to help. So making sense of what you need to buy in the supermarkets
Yeah.
can be difficult.
Okay, so like the dieting then, if we like the message is quite simple, but it's very hard. It doesn't seem to be translating at all to people. That everybody knows dieting doesn't work, but yet we as a species we diet, and it doesn't work, and then you emotionally are battered from it through the cycles of failed dieting, and
Yeah,
we
it's
hear about a lot.
exhausting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot, and really the fix is just to eat better.
The fix is to eat better. And what is better?
Yeah, and what is better? Let's talk about what is better. Instead of getting into the whole like different foods though. So again, as
We
in
have to
others,
fix the mismatch.
yeah, we have to fix the mismatch. So we're in the supermarket. How are we fixing the mismatch? What are we buying?
Um, well, you need to buy foods that signal, something good is coming, and
Right?
that
Is that
that
is that broccoli now, or is that
well,
bread, or like what?
broccoli is definitely good for your microbes,
What
but
the-
it can get boring. You can
really?
make it more interesting. Um, but the more you eat of healthy foods, the more your microbes will also, be wired to
Yeah.
prefer those healthy foods. So it is about balancing and eating healthy, but it can still be tasty.
Right.
If you eat a food that is higher in fat and higher in sugar, just make sure that the calories are matched and that it's not junk food, but that it's homemade. Well, we
Yeah.
won't have time for that, but as close as possible.
Right. Right. Right.
So I know now Friday, I want my chips. I want my curry chips. Um, but I'm going to also give that to the kids because I'm home late. We have hockey until 8 p.m. So it's chips, it's a takeaway. And that's completely fine.
Hmm.
But I do, give them a can of corn before. That is no effort at all. Just click, open.
Yeah.
Here's some corn. Or peas, which literally take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just make sure that I have some of nutrient in there that kind of balances the hormones already. And then, yeah, have some junk food. We
Yeah.
need to feel good too.
And there's the whole point of you have to live as well.
Yes.
So, and like food is for life. It's not. You don't have to be
Yeah.
broccoli every day,
No.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
No.
Yeah. So takeaways are okay, but just in moderation, as with everything.
Yes, and if you need to do your weekly shop, try to buy more whole foods. It's repeated so often that it's nearly a boring message.
Yeah,
But I
and
think the
exactly.
science behind it makes it interesting again.
Yeah.
If you start understanding, okay, these foods they're for me, but they're also for my microbes, so that they can not make my life harder in trying to signal to the brain, hey, eat the high fat, high sugar food, so you're going to rebalance your microbes and you're going to rebalance your gut hormones, your ghrelin, your cortisol, and you're going to rebalance that pre and post digestive signaling that happens in this gut brain axis that we're studying at APC.
And that, so that's really good. And like, that's very much, so the last episode we did was around like sport and exercise, right? And so it's January and people are like, oh, I'm going to do exercise. I'm going to lose a bunch of weight this year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But like, I really like this because people automatically say, I'm just going to eat less. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to lose weight. And I'm going to look fantastic. And that's not actually what's going to happen.
No, don't eat less, eat better.
Eat better, which is exactly the message. And so I think a lot of people have no understanding of the fact that food goes in your body, it goes down, and we hear about the microbiome, and it's this bacteria, and it helps you digest food. But it does a lot more than that. It has a real impact in many, many systems within the body. And so this is one of the systems that people really need to start to understand.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, it's not about weight loss. It's about weight management and rebalancing. And the GLP-1s are great at helping individuals have the disease of obesity to make that initial step. But what also is through, it comes with side effects.
yeah,
People get nauseous and they might plateau after a while, don't lose as much weight anymore.
mm,
I think about 50% of the individuals who are prescribed GLP-1 don't take it anymore after a year or two. And this is the big problem because it's a medication. The disease of obesity is a disease. Individuals with obesity will have to take this medication lifelong. So
right,
it's not a quick fix. And when people come off GLP-1, they usually regain almost, if not
Okay.
more, of the weight.
Right.
So if you are overweight, you're carrying extra weight, you will need to think twice. Am I going to take these drugs, or am I going to first try to, recalibrate my gut-brain axis
Yeah.
and be kinder for my microbiome? And
And it's
it
achievable,
goes
do you think?
slower, but
Yeah.
over time you'll feel better and you'll feel healthier. It
All
definitely
right.
ties in both in that link between food and mood again, because it also impacts the cortisol and serotonin and all those other hormones we haven't talked about.
Yeah, which, yeah, it's probably like there's a lot of hormones. So,
Yeah.
in terms then, okay, in the microbiome, the GLP-1 drug is not the only thing. So, we have the food approach, right?
Mhm.
So, but I suppose it'd be remiss of us not to talk about probiotics,
Mhm.
prebiotics, postbiotics, like all the different biotics that people are reading about in different magazines and seeing it online. And so, is there strategies
Yes.
around supplementation?
Well, we're learning so much about the microbiome. We're
Mhm.
looking at communities of species. We're looking how diet changes the microbiome. We know diversity microbiome is good because they can do lots of functions. Their buffer capacity, what we talked about, is better.
Yeah.
But we're learning, and that's what my lab does. We're really looking at individual species, and we're trying to see what individual species do really, really well.
Right.
Like certain species are really good at signaling or modulating ghrelin receptor signaling. And we've identified one of those species that is really good at um, reducing the or modulating ghrelin, and both at the level of its secretion as well as at the level of its receptor expression. So it is improving ghrelin signaling.
Right.
And we've also looked at species, for instance, that are good at reducing the stress hormone. We use rodent studies, we use in vitro assays, and we also test it then in humans. We do intervention studies.
Yeah.
And I talked about this previously. One particular species that we're working on now, which is a biflongum, has shown, and we've published this, that it is really good at reducing glucose, reducing the stress hormone cortisol, and normalizing ghrelin levels in individuals with obesity. And we're looking now to see if that also translates in alterations in eating behavior. And we're also not only doing that in adults, but we're also looking at children and in early life stages.
Right.
So yes, I think to answer your question, because I'm digressing, to answer your question, more and more evidence is accumulating that really shows that specific species are good and can do one or two things really well, and some people may benefit from it. But of course, you see maybe 20 probiotics on the shelves in Boots or wherever.
Yeah.
Not all of them have so much preclinical or clinical scientific evidence with it yet.
Right.
So that needs to be improved. We need more
Yes.
studies
Yeah.
to look, what do these species exactly do? How do they do it? When do they do it? What do they actually need to be fed? Because if you take a live bacteria, what a probiotic is, if it doesn't have its fibers, it still won't do what we've shown in the laboratory that
Right.
it can do.
Yeah.
Right? So it still goes down to, yes, they may be beneficial for certain people who have carry overweight or just want to boost their immune system, but you also need to eat a healthy diet. So
Okay.
it always boils down to diet.
So it's still, yes. So taking a supplement does not replace a healthy diet. You still need the diet.
Yeah.
I'm going to circle back to the children.
The children.
So we talked earlier, like the messaging starts here
Yeah.
in the children. Obviously, it's the parent, and parents need to understand a certain amount, but I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Where do I start? Well, I have three
Yeah.
of these
Well done,
children.
well done.
Yes. And they're really at the phase now between 7 and 12
Right.
that they are really good at nearly blackmail, I would say, asking for high sugar,
Yeah.
sweets.
Right.
So I'm trying to teach them
Shocking. Oh, God.
that's
Imagine
not
that.
so good for them. And we have, so in my lab, we're looking at the early life stage as well. We know that early in life, diet and the microbiome is really important to imprint eating behavior later in life and
Right.
imprint obesity risk. So there is one study that we've recently completed that showed that in rodents, if we expose in early life animals to a high-fat, high-sugar diet for, like, say, 5 weeks until um, 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 maybe relevant to 16 years in humans,
Okay.
and then put them on normal diet for a few weeks, and then test them in adulthood, and we give them again the high-fat, high-sugar, unhealthy combination. The control animals that have never seen high-fat, high-sugar food prefer the high-fat, high-sugar food over the normal chow diet, which is normal.
Yeah.
But the ones that have seen the high-fat, high-sugar food have an excessive preference for this. They go nuts for it. It's
Oh,
like
really?
they eat it, they crumble it, they carry it to their nests, and it really goes excessive.
So you can teach bad habits, is what you're saying, like
Yes,
early on.
and what we see if we manipulate or make sure that they have um, a, a good microbiome, so we give them prebiotics
Yeah.
and then also a probiotic in another group, we see that excessive preference for high-fat, high-sugar food following the early life high-fat, high-sugar food exposure is normalized. So this shows us, and others have shown that as well, high-fat, high-sugar food early in life, prenatally, we're specifically looking postnatally,
Yeah.
that this can prime excessive preference for those foods. And that we're trying to figure out what are the mechanisms behind that. Do we have changes in central expression of receptors for GLP-1 and Ghrelin? How is the gut hormone secretion altered? How is the microbiome altered following this early life exposure? But what is really, really promising is that if we target, again, the microbiome, only the microbiome, it looks like we can rescue some of those detrimental effects. So this is really exciting, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I'm reticent of people kind of going, oh my God, I don't want to mess up my child. So what'll I feed it? And then I don't want to mess up its mental health. And I don't so there's a lot of pressure.
There is a lot of
More
pressure.
misinformation, more pressure. So let's maybe, if we're going to wrap up, let's talk about the parent. Okay. Because yeah.
Yeah.
So what can we, so as a mother, father of a child, besides like a wholesome diet, I suppose they shouldn't be afraid.
No. Well, you can only do the best you can do. I mean, I give my children sweets. Of course I do.
Good.
Of
That makes
course
us
I do.
all feel
But
better.
I try to I try to make them understand, because I work in the area. I try to make them understand what you put in your body now, it's going to build your body. It's like a bridge. So I say to them, and I do that because my son, he did a course in engineering. So he was building a bridge out of straw, and then he used cardboard and toilet rolls. And all of a sudden, when he said, I want to have this sweet, I went, well, no, you've already had sweets. I can't give you so much. And he didn't understand why. And I said, remember when you were building the bridge? The bridge was much stronger when you built it with the cardboard than when you did the straws. So your body is like that as well. Your body has to bridge all the way into old age. If you're going to give it sweets and unhealthy foods, your bridge is going to not be so strong. So you might not stretch as far.
Yeah.
You need to build your bridge. You need to build your body like a bridge. Put strong bricks in it. Whole foods, plants and vegetables, like the cavemen intended, or natural whole foods are the way to go.
Yeah.
And of course, you can have a treat once in a while, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just try to moderate it. And I think if they understand it, it becomes a little bit more real world for them.
Yeah, like a second nature to them.
Yeah.
And for the parent, it's not always, so different types of proteins. So it's not always about, fillet steak or whatever. And meat should be limited anyway. But what I'm saying is everyone has different economics. Everyone has different levels of education around food, around what's going on. So it's very forgiving.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
One way is not the right way.
Yeah, okay.
And I think if we understand what food tastes pre-digestion will match the post-digestion actual nutritional value, that is the best way to balance our microbiome and our appetite hormone balance, then it becomes easier to pick the right foods. And that's what I hope. And we need to, as scientists, to explore a little bit better those mechanisms, and we're well on the way.
Right.
And then we need to communicate these to individuals. And because it is really difficult. I'm a mother. I need to shop for the food. My kids ask for sweets, and then I do this science. So yes, I feel guilty every time I give them or succumb to, or we need to be at soccer in 10 minutes time. Here's a pizza. But it has to also
It's reality
work.
as well.
It's reality.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so your lab, you're working on these future, let's call them therapies. They're not technically therapies, but like products that can help people to repair maybe the damage, but not replace good food choice.
I don't think and will we really want to go to something where we can replace good
Yeah,
food
no,
choice? I don't think so.
no. Yeah.
I think we need to drive the message. Good food choice is still the best way.
Yeah.
But we can come up with supplements and functional food ingredients that can help balance your appetite hormones and help feed your gut microbiome to give you a better chance of making the right food choices when you didn't sleep last night,
Yeah.
or give you restore that buffer and restore the pre and post digestive mismatch that occurs with the obesogenic environment and the obesogenic foods that we're exposed to.
Okay. So that's really good stuff. I mean, and now we're just going to recap. So I'm going to let you recap, but let's think it. So people approach food from different angles. And I suppose what this episode is about is after you put it in your mouth, what starts to happen, which has an impact of what you put in your mouth over time. So the cycle. And like, you need to remove the guilt. Everything is fixable. Reality has to bear in.
Well, I think if you say my food choices, it's not only willpower, it is my biology.
Yeah.
And if I've made wrong food choices time and time again, my biology is now even more wired, including my microbes, to prefer those unhealthy food choices. So start at the basics. Slowly start improving your food intake. They say eat more fiber. You know, everyone knows what healthy foods are.
Yeah.
Just try to eat them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And your sleep is really important, because if you don't sleep, you have another reason for increased ghrelin, and that will make your food choices harder to make. But improve your diet slowly. Don't go on a crash diet, because it will achieve the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And when you eat and you have a high sugar, high fat food, it will taste delicious. Your mouth will signal quickly to the brain, dopamine is released, but it does so because of the promise of the calories that we've learned in evolution will follow.
Yeah.
If your high fat, high sugar food is a junk food, or those unhealthy combinations, those calories won't arrive. So you need to, if you want to eat your junk food, just make sure you also eat something that will have the nutritional value.
Right.
And it can be something simple. I think we need to pro and postbiotics and symbiotics and prebiotics. They can help us feed our microbes and help us with the microbial buffer, but we still need to feed our microbes their food, and we still need to eat the food with the nutritional value.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with an occasional junk food.
Thank God. Phew.
I'm looking forward to my curry chips. Tonight I might eat broccoli.
Really?
Yeah.
Best of luck with that. Thank you so much for coming in. That was really interesting. And I hope people got... So if I can understand it, you all out there should understand it, in that, like, this is a piece of the puzzle, and Harriët and the people she works with, like, they're trying to solve the puzzle piece by piece. So, you know, it's basic science. It's interesting. Like and share. Push it around the internet. You know, the more people like and share, the more people view it, the more we do, and the more science gets out there. And like Harriët and people like Harriët, you know, they bring a wealth of experience and work to this field. So yeah, the more we know, the better armed we are for life. Okay, so thank you so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.